Today, I'm stepping into the shoes of a single mother, struggling to survive through difficult circumstances, and trying to spread kindness just like an extraordinary officer did. This officer's story is one that reminds us of how one person's actions can truly change another person's life. It's a story I can't wait to share with you. Meet Sarah, a single mom who's facing an uphill battle. Her life has been a constant whirlwind of financial stress, juggling 2 jobs just to keep food on the table and the bills barely paid. Yet, despite working tirelessly day and night, she finds herself slipping further into debt, overwhelmed by the crushing weight of her responsibilities. Her kids mean everything to her, and she would do anything to see them thrive, but the hurdles seem insurmountable. Sarah's been searching for a way out of the dark tunnel, but no matter where she turns, the help she needs always feels just out of reach. The wait lists for aid are long, and her patience is running thin. She's tried reaching out, but never found the courage to take that final step, until one day, she visits a local charity in hopes of finding something more than just an empty promise. As Sarah walked into the local charity's office, her heart raced with a mix of anxiety and fear. She wasn't sure what to expect or if anyone there would truly understand the depths of her struggle. She'd heard about this place from a few friends, but it felt like a shot in the dark, a last resort. She didn't even know if she could afford to keep going, but she had to try for her kids. Her eyes darted nervously around the office as she waited, her hands trembling slightly. It had been a long time since she had felt like someone might truly be able to help. The long, sleepless nights filled with worry had taken a toll on her mental health, and she wasn't sure how much more she could endure. Still, she kept her head high, telling herself that she had to at least give this place a shot. Then, a kind voice interrupted her thoughts. "Sarah?" A soft voice called from the doorway. She looked up, startled, and saw a police officer standing there with a warm, approachable smile. "Hi, I'm Officer Nathan," he said. "I'll be helping you today. Please follow me." The officer led her to a quiet, private room where they could talk in peace. Sarah felt a strange sense of calm as she sat down across from him. His presence, soothing and unassuming, made her feel like this might not be just another dead end. Nathan didn't immediately dive into paperwork or numbers. Instead, he looked at her, really looked at her, with understanding eyes. "You don't have to explain everything right away," Officer Nathan said gently. "I just want to know how you're doing, how you're feeling." That was all it took. Sarah felt a rush of emotion surge up in her chest as she started to open up. For the first time in a long while, someone was genuinely listening. She shared the exhausting reality of her daily struggle, the sleepless nights, the constant worry about paying bills, and the overwhelming pressure to keep everything together for her children. Nathan's face softened as he listened, and he nodded in understanding. "You're doing more than anyone could expect," he reassured her. "You're strong, Sarah, and we're going to help you get through this." The officer didn't just ask about her financial situation, he asked about her emotional health too. He seemed to recognize that her situation wasn't just about money, it was about the immense stress and mental exhaustion that came with trying to keep up appearances, all while barely holding on. Sarah felt a flood of relief. She hadn't even realized how badly she needed to hear someone acknowledge the emotional weight she carried. Nathan was different from anyone she had encountered before. He wasn't here just to check off a list or send her on her way. He was here to help her, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Sarah allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, someone cared enough to make a difference. As Sarah continued to speak, she realized just how much weight she had been carrying for far too long. Her words came in a steady stream, each one heavier than the last. Officer Nathan didn't interrupt. He just listened, offering a nod here and there, but he never looked away. It felt like for the first time in years, someone was truly hearing her. But then, just as she began to feel the faintest glimmer of hope, something unexpected happened. Nathan leaned back slightly in his chair, his brow furrowed as he glanced at his computer screen. He had been silently assessing the information she shared when something caught his eye. A detail about her application for financial assistance, something that seemed minor at first, stood out. It was a discrepancy. A missing payment, an unlisted debt, an unpaid fee. He hesitated for a moment, then turned his gaze back to Sarah. "I'm sorry to ask this," he said slowly, "but there seems to be a problem with your application. You don't qualify for the help you thought you would. You've been placed on a waiting list, and it might be months before anything changes." The weight of his words hit Sarah like a freight train. She felt a lump form in her throat, the wave of panic rising again. She had been holding on to the hope that this was her way out, her lifeline. But now, it seemed as if that door was closing just as quickly as it had opened. She had done everything right, she had followed every step, and still, she was stuck. Officer Nathan saw the shift in her face. Her shoulders slumped, her hands clenched into fists, as if bracing herself against the storm. The hopelessness was back, and he knew it. He couldn't stand to see the despair in her eyes, not after everything she had just shared. He had seen so many people in distress before, but something about Sarah's struggle tugged at his heart. "Wait," he said, an idea flashing in his mind. He quickly typed on the computer, searching for alternative resources. Then, with a click, his expression softened. "I have another option for you. It's not the perfect solution, but it can help. A local organization runs a program specifically designed for families who need emergency assistance. It's fast, and they can cover most of what you need right now." Sarah blinked in disbelief. "You mean there's a chance?" Nathan nodded. "It's not a guarantee, but I'll personally make sure your case is pushed to the top. No one should have to wait in a time like this." Her heart skipped. Could this really be happening? The overwhelming stress she had been under, was it finally starting to lift? There was hope, a real chance, that she could finally catch a break. Nathan wasn't giving up on her, even when the system had almost shut her out. But then, just as Sarah was about to express her gratitude, Nathan did something that completely took her by surprise. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his own credit card, and placed it on the desk in front of her. "I know it's not enough to fix everything," he said, his voice firm but kind, "but this will cover your bills for the next month. It's not much, but it'll give you a little breathing room." Sarah's eyes widened. She couldn't believe it. She had come to this office, expecting to leave with nothing but a long wait ahead. Instead, she was faced with the unexpected kindness of someone who truly understood. Officer Nathan had given her far more than financial help. He had given her hope. As Sarah sat there, staring at the credit card in disbelief, she felt a sense of gratitude and wonder she hadn't experienced in years. Officer Nathan's simple yet profound act of kindness had started a ripple effect in her heart. It wasn't just the money. It wasn't even the fact that her bills would be paid. It was the recognition that someone had seen her, truly seen her, in a way she hadn't allowed herself to be seen in a long time. For so long, Sarah had carried the weight of her struggles alone. She had become so used to doing everything herself, pushing through every obstacle with sheer determination. She had convinced herself that asking for help meant weakness, that needing others was a failure. But now, with Nathan's gesture, she realized how wrong she had been. It wasn't weakness to ask for help, it was strength. It took strength to admit when things were too much to handle, and it took even more strength to accept that sometimes it was okay to lean on others. As the officer spoke to her, offering a listening ear and practical support, Sarah's perspective began to shift. She had thought she was alone in her battle, that the world had turned its back on her. But here was Nathan, a complete stranger, giving her the compassion and care she had been craving. His actions were a stark contrast to the indifference she had often faced from the system. The way he had taken the time to listen to her story, to understand her challenges, and to offer solutions, it was something Sarah had never imagined she would experience. In that moment, Sarah realized something powerful. Her value wasn't defined by her ability to solve every problem on her own. She didn't have to carry the weight of the world alone anymore. There were people out there, kind-hearted people like Nathan, who were willing to step in and help without hesitation. Her thoughts shifted from despair to determination. For the first time in a long time, Sarah felt like she had options. She wasn't stuck. She had been given the opportunity to change her life, to break free from the chains of financial instability and emotional exhaustion. But the most important realization of all was this: Sarah could give herself permission to be kind to herself. She could acknowledge the pain she had been through and know that it didn't define her. It was a chapter, not the whole story. As she left the office, a sense of peace settled over her. She still had challenges ahead, of course, but the weight on her shoulders felt a little lighter. She had the courage to ask for help, and in return, she had been given not just temporary relief, but a fresh start. Nathan's kindness had sparked a new way of thinking, a new belief that people could be trusted, that it was okay to accept help, and that no matter how dark things seemed, there was always a way forward, if you were willing to open yourself up to it. As Sarah walked out of the charity's office, the cool air hit her face, but it wasn't just the chill of the wind that made her feel alive. It was the overwhelming sense of possibility, the feeling that for the first time in a long time, things could truly change for the better. Officer Nathan's kindness had opened doors she hadn't even known existed. What had felt like a hopeless situation just hours ago now felt like the beginning of a new chapter in her life. She glanced down at the credit card Nathan had given her, the one that would cover her bills for the next month. It wasn't just money. It was a symbol. A symbol of hope, of fresh starts, and most importantly, of the fact that she wasn't alone. Someone out there cared, and because of that, Sarah knew she could push forward, step by step. But it wasn't just the immediate relief she felt. Nathan had also connected her with a local job placement agency that worked with people in her situation, single mothers, struggling families. She had always been afraid to take the leap into a new job. The thought of changing careers, of stepping into the unknown, terrified her. She had always stayed in her current jobs because they were familiar, even though they barely made ends meet. But now, with the pressure of her immediate bills temporarily lifted, she felt a sense of freedom. It was the freedom to explore new opportunities without fear of failure, knowing that even if things didn't work out right away, she had a network of support behind her. Nathan had gone above and beyond, not just giving her a temporary solution, but also providing her with the tools to build something more sustainable. The support he offered wasn't just financial. It was emotional, practical, and life-changing. The thought of applying for new jobs made Sarah's heart race, but it wasn't the kind of anxiety she used to feel. It was more of an excited nervousness, a feeling that she was finally taking control of her future. She knew it would be tough, but she was ready to face whatever came her way. After all, she had just experienced the power of unexpected kindness, and she was determined to pass it forward, to teach her kids the value of compassion, of helping others when they need it most. That evening, as Sarah sat down with her children, she saw them through different eyes. Before, she had been consumed by worry, about the bills, about the future. But tonight there was a shift. She looked at her kids, and she realized something important. they were her future. The love she had for them, the determination to give them a better life, was more than enough to keep her going. She wasn't just fighting for a paycheck anymore. She was fighting for their dreams, for their happiness. And that gave her a new sense of purpose. Sarah knew that the road ahead would have its challenges, but she wasn't afraid anymore. With the support of people like Officer Nathan and the new opportunities ahead of her, she had everything she needed to succeed. As weeks passed, Sarah's life began to change in ways she hadn't imagined. The relief she had felt when Officer Nathan helped her pay her bills hadn't just given her financial stability. It had sparked something deep within her, a renewed sense of self-worth, hope, and determination. She found herself looking at her struggles through a different lens, no longer seeing them as insurmountable obstacles but as stepping stones toward a better life. She took the job placement agency's advice seriously and began applying for positions that would offer her more security and a chance to build a career. It wasn't easy. Sarah was often filled with doubts, wondering if she was truly capable of stepping into a new chapter. The fear of failure lurked in the background, but something had shifted inside her. She was no longer willing to let fear dictate her life. The kindness she had received had become a beacon of strength, and it gave her the courage to take risks she would have avoided before. Her confidence grew with each interview she attended, with each job application she submitted. Even when she faced rejection, she no longer saw it as a personal failure. Instead, she took it as a lesson, another opportunity to grow and improve. She had learned from Nathan that sometimes, all it takes is one person to believe in you for you to start believing in yourself. Sarah also found herself more present for her children. As she began to find her footing again, she made a conscious decision to involve them in her journey. She explained to them why things had been difficult, but more importantly, she showed them how to stay hopeful in the face of adversity. She wanted them to see that no matter how many setbacks life threw their way, there was always a way forward as long as they stayed determined. She began volunteering at the same local charity where she had met Officer Nathan, wanting to give back in any way she could. It was a place where she had once felt hopeless, but now, it was a place where she could make a tangible difference in the lives of others. Sarah shared her story with other families in need, offering them a glimmer of hope, just as Nathan had given her. Her transformation wasn't just about financial stability. It was about her entire outlook on life. Sarah no longer viewed her challenges as a curse. She saw them as an integral part of her growth. She was learning to embrace the journey, to accept that there would be ups and downs, but that each experience made her stronger. The more Sarah gave to others, the more she received in return. Her life began to align with a new purpose, one that was centered around love, resilience, and compassion. She no longer felt like a victim of her circumstances. Instead, she felt empowered to create the future she had always dreamed of, for herself and her children. Sarah stood in front of her new apartment, the keys to her future in her hand. It was a small place, nothing extravagant, but it was hers, a space where she and her children could finally feel safe and secure. The journey to this moment had been anything but easy, but every challenge she had faced had led her to this point. She had come so far from the woman who had once sat in that charity office, overwhelmed and filled with doubt. The transformation she had undergone wasn't just physical, it was deep, profound. Sarah had learned to believe in herself, to trust that the future held possibilities, even when the present seemed uncertain. Her confidence had grown in ways she hadn't thought possible, and it wasn't just because of her new job or her financial stability. It was because she had rediscovered her strength. She had found her voice again and realized that no matter how difficult things got, she had the power to rise above them. And none of this would have been possible without the unexpected kindness of Officer Nathan. His actions had been a turning point in her life, But they had also been a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there was always someone willing to help, to offer a hand when it seemed like all hope was lost. Nathan had been her lifeline, but more importantly, he had shown her what it meant to give back. His compassion had ignited a fire within her, one that pushed her to not only change her own life but to help others in need as well. Sarah thought back to the countless times she had told herself she wasn't enough. How she had believed that asking for help was a sign of weakness. Now she knew better. Asking for help wasn't a failure, it was an act of strength. It took courage to face your fears, to admit that you needed others, and to accept that you could never do it all alone. That realization had opened her eyes to a world of possibilities, and now she was ready to embrace them all. She glanced down at her children, who were laughing and playing in the living room. The joy on their faces was a reminder of why she had worked so hard to get to this point. They were her motivation, her reason for pushing through the tough times. And now, she could finally offer them the stability and happiness they deserved. Sarah knew the journey wasn't over. There would always be new challenges, new obstacles to overcome. But for the first time in a long while, she felt equipped to handle them. She had learned that the road to success wasn't always linear. It was messy, unpredictable, and filled with both setbacks and triumphs. But that was what made the victories so much sweeter. As she looked toward the future, Sarah was filled with gratitude, not just for the people who had helped her along the way, but for herself. She had found the strength to rise, and now, she was ready to pay it forward, to show the world that kindness, no matter how small, could change everything. The story of Sarah's journey is a powerful reminder that even in our darkest moments, there is always hope. One act of kindness can completely transform a life. We often get so caught up in our own struggles that we forget how much impact a single kind gesture can have on someone else. Sarah was a woman who was drowning in stress, uncertainty, and fear, but through the kindness of Officer Nathan, she learned that asking for help wasn't a sign of weakness. It was an opportunity for growth and change. The most important lesson here is that kindness can create ripple effects. When one person is helped, they are empowered to help others. Sarah's story isn't just about receiving help, it's about how she transformed that help into something greater. She's now giving back, passing on the kindness she received. In a world that can sometimes feel cold and indifferent, it's up to each of us to be the light in someone else's life. In your own life, you might not always know how much someone is struggling. A kind word, a helping hand, or even listening to someone's story can change their entire outlook. Be the person who makes a difference, whether it's offering assistance, volunteering, or simply showing kindness to those around you. Kindness is a choice we can all make, and the impact it has is immeasurable. Just like Sarah, you too can create positive change, one small act at a time. Have you ever experienced or witnessed an act of kindness that changed your life? Or maybe you've been able to pay it forward? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed Sarah's story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more uplifting, inspiring stories.